Welcome to DT Madness, Chronicles from the Third Life, Episode 48, February 25th, 2023. So glad you could make it. In continuing with the theme begun last week with the hymnal for the Church of Six, I tried to sprinkle some of these through the madness today. So I'll open up with maybe the prelude, maybe what I would consider. Yeah, I think so. And you know how I am. I'll go back and forth with bests and top fives and all that kind of stuff. But I really do think that this is the best Avett Brothers song. And it certainly is my favorite over the years. I think it's probably the first one I heard on a mixtape of some sort, or maybe just like a blank tape that was recorded with Emotionalism, the album on it, before I really even knew who the Avett Brothers were. But Weight of Lies and these lyrics I think are really just they underlie what I'm trying to accomplish for myself here at DT Madness. And it says, I once heard the worst thing a man can do is draw a hungry crowd. Tell everyone his name in pride and confidence, but leaving out his doubts. I'm not sure I bought those words when I was young. I knew most everything. But these words have never meant as much to anyone as they now mean to me. And I think just for me that there's so much, and maybe in my younger life, I'm not sure if I projected that pride and confidence, but there's just a lot of that going around. And where we leave out our doubts, we leave out our suspicions, our wonders, and as though somehow we have it all figured out. And certainly I don't. And that's where I'm try to spend this 20, 30, 40 minutes each week processing, and hopefully sharing with you, some things that maybe resonate. I don't know. I appreciate you listening. I really do. Um, the opening hymn, so we'll go back here. So Weight of Lies added to the Church of Six hymn book. And then the next one is Hands on the Wheel, Willie Nelson, from the Red-Headed Stranger, which was that the very first episode where I talk about best albums, and certainly Red-Headed Stranger makes that list, if not the top of the list. But the words, at a time when the world seems to be spinning hopelessly out of control, there's deceivers and believers and old in-betweeners that seem to have no place to go. Well, it's the same old song. It's right and it's wrong, and living is just something that I do. With no place to hide, I looked in your eyes and I found myself in you. And I looked to the stars and tried all the bars, and I've nearly gone up in smoke. Now my hand's on the wheel. I've something that's real, and I feel like I'm going home. So that's pretty good for an opening hymn today. And we add those two to the playlist. We'll kind of start off with maybe a halftime worthy. I don't think there'll be a halftime today, but kind of a halftime worthy story. As I was cooking some eggs up the other day, um, I always, I don't know how you roll, but I always check to make sure the eggs aren't cracked ahead of time. And if they are cracked, then I'm not trying to use them. And so I got the two eggs out and I was holding one in my hand. I checked it, around and, kind of rolled it through my hands. I'm doing that right now, um, mimicking that with my fingers. But it didn't have a crack. And so, but when I reached up with that egg in my hand to open up the cabinet door to get the little bowl out that I was going to stir the eggs up in, I hit I hit the handle. And so it, obviously made a little crack in the egg. But then when I went to use the egg, I couldn't do it, like or I wouldn't do it one way or the other. And because I guess it was both. Now the egg is cracked, and I have this way too strong of a hang up over potential foodborne illnesses. There's that going on. But then there was also like the, am I really sure that it wasn't cracked before kind of neurosis that I have. Um, all of these things that I'm definitely working on, but glad that I can be aware of it and realize just how much madness is in DT. So that just goes to illustrate some of the wild things that go on in my head. I did throw the egg away and got another one. I know those eggs are like $2 an egg right now anyway, right? But I've been going through therapy. I've been to 8 or 9 different sessions now, going once a week, and really dealing with this trauma that I have had cooped up, I guess, for a really long time. And one of the things that I've learned in the past week or so is that with trauma, it's not, you don't really have memories as much as you have symptoms. That it isn't character flaws, and I think that's something that I've wrestled with. I'll get to that in just a little bit, but like some of the symptoms that could just in a brief search, my therapist showed me a list of all these things, and I told her I did pretty well on that test. I had almost all of them, but like not remembering the events, struggling with relationships because of inability to trust, cope through risky behavior, struggle with concentration and focus, being irritable or angry, often due to feelings of shame, feeling easily startled and hypervigilant, experience flashbacks and vivid dreams, try to convince yourself that the event wasn't traumatic, struggle with resting and feeling safe, and there's more. And out of that list, at least I don't struggle with concentration and focus, and so I got that going for me. Definitely easily startled. Definitely easily startled. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. I hope I got it edited out. Um, and hyper vigilant, as I've kind of noted over the past couple of weeks. But man, sometimes that's warranted because I was just in here doing my thing, listening to music or like folding some clothes or something, and Sydney just creeps in and stands there like she's just super quiet, and all of a sudden I turn around and there she is. But definitely easily startled. But anyway, I mean, some of this is most of this, I guess, is for me. This is my processing. This is trying to understand, but I don't know what your story is. I don't know what traumas you may have encountered along the way, maybe more than one. Um, but these symptoms, they aren't character flaws. They're ways that our body has handled all of that. So, I'm not the therapist, but I just wanted you to know that I'm here too. Um, One of the things too that I had talked about maybe in the last couple of weeks is maybe the sense of losing the plot, kind of not knowing where the end is or what the end is in all kinds of ways, in terms of teaching, in terms of society in general, which I think that not knowing, not having faith in the future and things like that. I think that was on the list of trauma symptoms too. But I went back and thought about that. There's another aspect to the tattoo that I've gotten, and it's not just the boat with the mast on fire, in the ripples in the water that I talked about last week, but there's also a sequoia cone, and the sequoia cone is on fire because, as I may have mentioned many times, this I learned that the sequoia cone opens up. It can remain dormant for decades, and then sometimes it opens up its seeds when there is a fire. But that comes from Wendell Berry's poem, The Mad Farmer Liberation Front, and because he talks about planting sequoias, he talks about investing in the millennium. The idea being that I'm not going to see the fruit of my labor, but that it's still worth it. I think it's Martin Luther. I say this every time, but I think it was him that said, what are you going to do if you find out you're going to die tomorrow? And he said, plant a tree. And so that was good for me to remember this week, is that even when I lose or feel like I have lost the plot, it's still best to plant sequoias, to go ahead and invest in things that I know that I may not ever get a chance to see or recognize. Um, I've been reading, I've been reading Tara Brach's book, Radical Acceptance, and I believe Radical Compassion, the other one that she wrote, or another one that she wrote, is on the way, and I think it's due today. It's on deck, and then what is it? No Mud, No Lotus by Thich Nhat Hanh is in the hole, awaiting. So if you want to know where my mind's at, that's kind of where it is. But one of the things I was reading about in the Buddhist practice this week is the idea of the three refuges. And there's refuge in what they would say is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, um, which isn't a whole bunch different in my view from the Trinity itself. It's the one, I take refuge in this, that there's a higher power than I. There's something bigger, and there's a way that is inside me too, that I'm a part of. I'm a part of the body, and that there's this community, this idea of sharing grief. That I worry about my kids, but it's not just me. Think about all the other fathers and mothers that worry about their kids. Think about all the people that we live in this society with, the intense, anxiety that's presented to us in the news, and you've got to buy this now, like the constant churning, the constant noise. And so it's not just me. There is this refuge in the community, and I think I know that in my head, but um, maybe I haven't practiced that as much. But uh, moving on, I'm sorry if it's super choppy today, but I am not necessarily for Lent. It's not necessarily a Lenten practice for me, but it is, I guess, going to coincide with the 40 days. And so I did give up Facebook and Instagram for um, what I'm hoping for will be for 40 days at least. And I thought about announcing it on Facebook and Instagram that I was going to take a break, but I didn't. I just deleted those apps for a while, and it's just been since Wednesday. And I still pick up my phone and kind of wander through the apps a few times because I'm so conditioned into doing that. But the way that I look at my phone and relate to those types of apps obviously has changed. To be fair, I still have like Be Real, and I still use Snapchat, but and I left Facebook Messenger up because people from the town contact me that way. But I don't scroll mindlessly through Be Real. Like, and mainly it's just my kids, mainly, that I have on that app. And Snapchat, I think I use that once in a while for like two people, so not not a big deal. But I just I wanted to get rid of I wanted to deal with my addiction. Like, I, I I have addictive behaviors, and I have recognized that it's more than just one. And so, in a way, like, to fulfill my desire to be here and now, I'm going without these constant mindless scrolling, and the need to see the red little one up there. It's a struggle because I know that I have a gift of encouragement, and that I can write on Facebook. Like, I know how to write the words on Facebook that people are going to read, people in my community, and I know that it encourages them. I know that it lifts them up because they tell me that it does. Um, but I do think that in a lot of ways, what I have used those apps and other things for is a way to separate myself from myself. Because one of the things that I don't know if it's dissociation. I've been trying to read about that. I don't think that's quite the word. I'm interested to ask next time I have a session and see what might be a better word for that. But I don't want to be in myself too long, because then I've got to deal with things. And I mean, I think that's what I do with fear. I think that's what I do with expectations. I'm being completely real. I think it's how sometimes when other people use the word trauma, I judge whether or not it is, and that's ridiculous. And I apologize. And I'm sorry for that. I really am. Like, but I think that what that does is it, I know triggers is such a buzzword, but like it triggers whatever physiological responses I have to hear someone else talking about it. And instead of wrestling with those feelings and those emotions that I have and dealing with those and holding them with compassion, my own suffering with compassion, I get out of myself and focus on others and do that kind of in a judgmental way. And I recognize that, and I'm glad that I do. So anyway, that's what I'm wrestling with this season of Lent. I suppose is trying to return to myself more and more and more, and to hold those types of things with compassion, and for you as well. I mean, back to the weight of lies. I'm a runner. I'm a runner. That's what I do. What is it? Fight or flight, um, freeze or fawn. I think are the four possible, or the four responses that are mentioned. And I'm a flight guy. I'm a flight guy for sure. I'm a runner, and I can see that pattern in so many different aspects of my life. And the Avett sing it, disappear from your hometown, go and find the people that you know, show them all your good parts, leave town when the bad ones start to show. But I'm gonna try to stick around. I'm gonna try to stay in town even when my bad ones start to show. The next song that comes up for the Church of Six is Shade, and it's a fish tune, and it's just been really impactful to me, like really important to me over the past little bit. The lyrics are like, I only like the shade when you're blocking the light, and I really like that. But it's the idea that, well, the lyrics say, I didn't know that if I ran away and got lost, that you'd still be there anyway. I didn't know that if I ran away and got lost, that you'd still be there anyway. I figured out what you whispered that night. Somewhere the clouds touch the mountains just right. Somewhere we're dancing and you're singing the tune south of the border and over the moon. Coming up on 22 years, man. 22 years being married to Sarah, 23 years plus together. And I'm a runner. I retreat. And that's just real. I didn't know if I ran away and got lost that you'd still be there anyway. And there she is. Um, I can't put that into words. I think, Sarah, when you hear that, you'll know. And you're probably crying. Better be crying. Um, but yeah, so that's a thing that helps me to know that I can learn how not to run. Um, anyway, while I'm off on hiatus from the social medias, I'm certainly going to have to find something to do, because I realize how many hours I spent with, wasting my life away, as Mr. Kisser would say. But I made a couple of lists. I'm going to try to put a roof on my buildings. My roofs are caving in from it's been 15, 20 years, and since my dad built those things for me. And I guess I better do some YouTubing, and I'm gonna have to go to Lowe's or something. Um, yeah, see how much I know about that. Part of the floor is caved in too, so I'm gonna have to fix at that. So you're definitely going to be getting some handyman updates through all of that. I really am going to try to start a garden, maybe just a small one. I'm thinking about like spinach. I'm thinking about I like green beans because I like picking them, and so I might just do those. Um, there's a real zen to picking green beans, and there's what else? Sweet potatoes. Probably going to put some of those in the ground at some point because I eat so much of that. Maybe just some other types of um, potatoes or greens, something like that. I don't know what else. Sydney likes cucumbers, so I might have to throw some of theirs in there. Maybe some zucchini because we do like to make zucchini bread, even though. So yeah, I'm planning on organizing a whole bunch of stuff. I really do enjoy. I'm no Marie Kondo, but I really do like to. take the stuff out and put it back in and create more space. And we're going to have to do that anyway for when Sam comes back around for the summertime, because now he and Isaac are in the same spot. So I know you're looking forward to the handyman updates on all of that. The next song that we have in our worship list here is in our hymn list is "Not with Haste" by Mumford and Sons. And ooh, this one's deep. This one means a lot to me. This one was one I played over and over and over again after we had our falling out with our previous kind of church community. Um, Again, like, because I just thought, yeah, I'm not trying to get into that, but like, this ain't no sham. I am what I am. I'm not pretending. I'm not putting on. I got my own deals for sure. Try to be as honest with that as I can. Do not let my fickle flesh go to waste, as it keeps my heart and soul in its place. And I will love with urgency, but not with haste. I am what I am. This ain't no sham. And that kind of leads me into the maybe a little bit of the heavy part. Um, David, you're like, man, it's been heavy for 3 weeks. I know you love it. Out there, we're looking at the sunset of the Pacific. Um, and talking about the thinking about the addictions that I have. There's a book called Breathing Underwater, I think, which is probably the one that'll come after the Thich Nhat Hanh book. It's a Richard Rohr book, and it basically goes through the 12 steps and dealing with different types of addictions. But his rationale is that we all have some type of addiction, whatever it is. So I looked up what the 12 steps were, and one of them is apologizing to the people that you've hurt along the way. Because the reality is, I mean, there are things that I've done that have been bad to people, and I've hurt other people. And so apologizing to those folks along the way, but I tell you, I'm not going to apologize to anybody in particular in this manner. But I think I am going to apologize to my kid self. To little Daniel, to Daniel. He was a good kid, man. And it kind of makes me sad that so many of the memories are locked away. That maybe I don't know how he felt through all that, but then again, maybe that's coming through my body and my emotions now. I think I'm experiencing that through these therapy sessions, but um, there are a ton of really phenomenal memories that I have, like just that almost cotton white hair, kind of straight down with that toothy grin and little smirk, and just playing basketball out with Kevin Webb, and we would just make letters and make our basketball plays in the design of letter. I mean, just stupid stuff, catching crawdads, or man, just spending hours and hours and hours outside playing wiffle ball, any of that, like I remember loving fifth grade with Miss Brown, and I remember loving Miss Ware in fourth grade, and Miss Elliott in third grade, and Mr. Brew I had in first and second grade, and I remember getting those massive hugs from Miss Packard in kindergarten. Like, I know that those things are there, and I know that that kid was a good kid, and I hear people talk about that kid, because I've grown up in this town. But I think I've realized that I think I maybe haven't thought that um, about him, about little me. So I apologize to him. I want to say that I'm sorry to him, and I apologize to my body. Like, dang. Um, in my coping mechanisms, I've definitely put my body through the ringer over the past couple decades, and it's held up as about as good as it can. Um, but there was this thing that I said that I read, that said, I people say I am a body and I have a soul, but they should change it to I am a soul and have a body. And I I don't know. I mean, I think it's I am a body and soul. That's kind of the way that I see it. Like, and I want to be more and more connected to both of those things. Man, I guess I'm rambling about a bunch of stuff. I'm, I don't know. I'm sorry for the expectations that I have. I don't mean that in the expectations are okay, but um, yeah, I'm going to leave that for now because I'm not even sure quite what I mean with that. I'd written that down, but I'm going to practice um, a pause right there. Um, I just I want to be accepting. I want to acknowledge the bad parts. That's a word that I've been talking about this week that I've been looking up. I looked up the etymology, of acknowledge. I want to acknowledge the things like when the thoughts come into my head that are terrible or memories that are ones that I wish I hadn't done or hadn't been done to me or whatever it is, like the shameful ones, the tricky ones, like the ones that are difficult to stomach. I want to I want to be there for that. I want to be here for all that. I want to acknowledge that that's me, you know, and I want to be seen. I want to be acknowledged. But for so long, I hadn't even been willing to, I don't know, willing to even see or acknowledge my own self, much less let you see me. So, um, I, in reading the book, Radical uh, Acceptance, one of the persons that's in there that Tara Brock is talking about that went through a counseling session with her. She was talking about some of the junk that she had gone through, and she realized that one of the really bad things was her baptism. And I wrote down here baptism by fire, and because what she says is that it led to the unfolding of her spiritual path, and that's a real thing. You know, silent H's are not a real thing, but that's a real thing. All the things, and thank you, Donnie, for reminding me of that this week. That I am who I am because of all of that stuff. I recognize that thing like that I fail, I failed at Davidson and things like that. And if I wouldn't have, then I wouldn't be here. I can tell that story to myself. But all of the things, all the bad parts and the good parts have led me to this place and have created the spiritual journey that I've been on. And that has allowed me to be an encourager, to be hyper vigilant and in the good ways, even though the other ways are stressful to me. So I really did like that, and I don't mean to say that all of this is just like a spiritual awakening, and that there's not something to it. That there's not a living in this life. I don't mean that, and I'll give you for example. I really think that in the next week or two, I'm going to go to our school board meeting. Our school board has it's just like all Republican now, and whatever. I don't mean that, but it's just like culture warrior type stuff. None of these people are educators, none of them, and it's like this giant contest of who can be the loudest and make the biggest splash with whatever, so people can meme them up on Facebook and all this kind of stuff. And come on, man! But I don't want to go there with anger. I don't want to go there with trying to one up anybody. And so that's part of my spiritual development, is that I want to recognize what's going on. And I would just want to talk about all the great things that are going on, like in the midst of a whole bunch of junk, in the midst of a whole bunch of construction and distractions and coming out of the lockdown seasons and all that kind of stuff, like reawakening these kids. There's a bunch of stuff going on that's just tremendous every single day, the connections that are being made. And I want to go and remind the school board and these parents that come out week in and week out that they turn it into a show that like our whole system's falling apart. And that's just not true. So I want to go and offer a positive uh, outlook. And it's just something that I heard my friend Ryan Etheridge say a couple of weeks ago, that what he teaches his kids to be, he teaches them to be builders and not destroyers. Like if somebody made a sandcastle, it's fun to knock that thing down. Like there's a primal rush that comes with destroying the domino tower, or the Lego set or whatever that your brother made. Like there's a rush, a primal rush that comes with that. But even if there are things that need to be dismantled, and there are, we should also be in the business of building. And I want to encourage our school board to do that. I want to encourage all of us to do that, and myself. Another song, and getting towards the end here, is this one's an acoustic syndicate song, which is kind of a local band. They made their way around the country for some years, but they're a local band, and this song, "Come This Way," says, "We've got to remember that this life is not our own. There's so many souls on the way. When someone troubles you, a little love will see you through. Chances are they feel the same way." And so one of the things I'm trying to do is widen my lens, widen my view, kind of see when I have my own internal stresses and about my own self, like to branch out and rest in that sangha, take that refuge in the community and understand that everybody's dealing with some stuff, that that my life is important and wonderful and beautiful, and yes, for sure, and I need to tell myself that more and more. But that, as I kind of back out with the drone's eye view, there's this whole thing going on, and I'm a part of it. So I'm trying to widen the lens to give myself more perspective, and to kind of repeat this mantra over and over, which is, may all circumstances serve to awaken compassion. I don't want to respond to you out of fear, out of my fear. I want to respond to you out of my compassion. I want to respond to me out of that. Rilke says, "I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not ever complete the last one, but I give myself to it." Mother Teresa said that she approached every single person as best she could, as though that person were Christ in his distressing disguise, which allowed her to treat each person as though they were a person. Groundbreaking. The final song, the closing hymn today, is another Fish song. And at first I was going to try to keep too many Fish songs out of there, but look, the reality is, if you want to know what I'm listening to, then a good bet is that it's Fish. I'm going to go back and listen to the second set of last night here as soon as I finish this. But this one's Strange Design. Dripping in this strange design, none is yours and far less mine. Hold the wheel, read the sign. Keep the tires off the line. Just relax. You're doing fine. Swimming in this real thing I call life. Can I bring a few companions on this ride? Just relax. You're doing fine. This is a Church of Six production, brought to you by the Bucket of Life, by the Wall of Belief, by the Foundation Tower of Stone, by the Magic Rock, and by the Token of Hope. Nothing divine is desperate. Don't forget to believe, y'all, and be live. And when I close out with my usual closing, it isn't, I don't throw it away. I really do wish it for you. I really do wish it for me, for all of us. So, peace, my friends.